All right, what's up, everybody? A little bit of a different video today. I'm joined here with Chrizzo. Say what's up.
How's it going, everybody?
So, real quick, we'll ask Chrizzo, what's your experience with philosophy?
Well, I've been into philosophy since high school, a little bit of middle school, but I probably didn't know the term philosophy and all the different dynamics that plays within philosophy. I dabbled more into philosophy when I got into college. So although I was a business major, I did take a few philosophy courses and classes that I thought were pretty interesting. I took phenomenology and embodiment of mind, which are like modern modern schools of philosophy, which was quite interesting for me. So, yeah, that's pretty much a rundown of a core foundation of the philosophy that I know. Um, Also, dabble into like psychology as psychology plays a big role into philosophy when asking questions. So,
Yeah, that's all great, man. Very excited to have this conversation. Today's big topic. I was assigned the question being, are humans animals? So we're going to dive into what it means to be a human, what makes us human. Are we much different than animals? Are we the same? All that good stuff. First, I will first give my response in what I believe is the case. And I came into this project thinking that yes, we are animals, and I came out after the research. I did debate a little bit, but at the end of the day, I still thought that we were animals, and we will dive into that further in. So before we dive in, Chrizzo, what is your take? What do you think? Do you think we're animals or not?
um, see, that question is like it's a very simple question for a very complicated
I
answer.
agree. I agree.
You know what I mean? So the question itself, are we animals? Yes and no. Um, we're animals in a way of our biology and a lot of the ways on how we think. A lot of our actions is through um, um, animalistic uh, attitudes that we've developed over time as a species through our instincts. So, in that regard, we are animals, but we're very smart animals, right? We're very smart animals, but we're different in a way in our thinking, right? So, humans, we had to quickly adapt into our environment because animals, for the most part, they are in tune with their environment, and it's like animals were put on this. It's like animals were created together with this planet, and it's like humans where we're just like placed here, so although we're very dynamic and adaptive creatures, we're very fragile creatures, unlike other animals. You can drop a cat on a building, it can land on its feet. You can throw a cockroach across the room, it can still run around like nothing happened. You can cut off a head of a chicken and it can still survive for like 20 minutes. Humans are very fragile. Since birth, we're very fragile creatures and animals, right? Some animals since birth, right at the get go, they're straight into doing things that they would normally do as an adult, right? Turtles, right when they're hatched, they're going straight into the ocean. Like it's instinct within them. Babies, human babies, we have to be nurtured very carefully. So we're very different than most animals uh, as our physical sense. So we had to really rely on our mental. And
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the things that um, a lot of our actions are animalistic based. It's like you can go down the rabbit hole. It's like, why do you want to get a job? Because you want to get a family. Why do you want to get a family? Because you want to, increase your bloodline. Why do you want to increase your bloodline? It's all instinct, right? So, although yes, physically we are animals, we're also very different because we had to use our mind to adapt to our environment, and our mind it's a lot more complex system than animals. We have the ability to think past, present, and future, as well as creativity. um, a lot of things that animals do, it's within their nature, but our nature, it's kind of thinking outside of our box, right? There's a lot of spiritual aspect that might come into um, someone who's creative, right? That can be outside of um, the instinct aspect of us.
Yeah, and hey, you bring a lot of great points, and a lot of these points are going to be brought up in these resources that I have for us. One big objection to that we are animals was that animal instinct. That's a big one because, like you said, animals are born and they are able to, survive in the wild, while humans need years of development with dependence of their parents before they can be able to survive in our world. So we're going to start off with the first source. It is a YouTube video from Wireless Philosophy called Neuroscience and Philosophy 3 Animal Minds. This one just goes through the basically what does an animal mind go through, like what is an animal thinking in an animal mind. And it kind of talks about first using the example of an octopus. And an octopus has a very different anatomy than us, obviously. One big thing is that they actually have multiple brains. I didn't even know this, but they have the central brain, and then they have brains on each of their tentacles. So their tentacles are able to move without cognitive function from the main brain, and they have a bunch of nerve connections through their tentacles and all that. And I say all this because we got to look at the difference between animals and humans, and this kind of relates to a topic that we talked in class. Thomas Nagel, he was making the argument of you can never under or experience what it is to be a bat, because an example being, if we had this magical machine that could give us the exact experience of being a bat, we're still getting that perspective from the human experience, right? So yeah, that source just pretty much talks about how the brain mind, or sorry, the animal mind thinks versus the human mind thinks. And also another example it uses that I want to talk about is how we test a bunch of our not social experiments, but experiments on rats, and that's because they have the same default mode network, the DMN, which I don't know too much about, but basically we're very similar to a lot of our habits are very similar to rats. But do you think, I'll bring this to you, Chrizzo, do you think that's enough to say that we are animals, or do you think that's not enough evidence?
So regarding to the aspect of looking at a bat, we can't see what a bat's perspective is through their own lens, which is true, right? So there's some colors that we don't even know exist, but some birds can see different colors, and some fish can see some colors that's even outside of our radar,
Mm-hmm.
right? But as far as the functionality of the actual animal, we can kind of see how um, each animal kind of functions by their habits, and how they interact with their environment, right? For example, ants are very methodical in their actions as well as bees. You know, they have a plan and they have a purpose, and that's to support the hive that they're currently living in. Bats are also similar as they tend to live in groups. So, although we can't see how they think directly, you know, diving into their own minds directly, we can see how they act as far as, you know, studying them very closely and also looking into their brains, right? You know, their brains are a lot different than we are. Our brains are a lot more complicated, and we have a lot more different aspects to our brain. Now, you mentioned octopus. No, octopus is a very interesting animal, right? Octopus, I would say octopus and dolphins are animals that we have yet to get a full grasp of, deep understanding of. Most of the other animals we kind of already know, but I feel like it's still not enough evidence to say that we are um, animals, because we are animals, but again, we're still very different in our imagination. Like, name me an animal that has the amount of imagination that humans do, right? Humans are the most adaptive animals on the planet. It can create a cup that's made of material that's not of our own. You can argue that, oh, well, spiders are very creative, but they are creative with their own things that they have within them, you know, webs, you know. So, um, humans we see our environment differently than other animals, right?
Hmm.
And
So
we
what
have
would you say? What would you say with an ape primate using like sticks and other things in their environment as tools to benefit them?
um so it all it all boils down to level of consciousness, I feel like.
Hmm.
And humans, I feel like, are at the top of, because we all live in the animal kingdom. So I'm not denying that we are not animals, but what kind of draws the line between humans and animals is the level of consciousness and our broader perspective of the world around us. So
Yeah,
although primates are able to use tools similar to us, they're just getting into that understanding of tools, and that, but humans have a lot more broader understanding of reality. And another thing too is that we question reality. Animals don't really question reality quite like we do.
hmm,
You know, we question things that are not even here, like God, right? Does God exist? You know, animals don't really question that. They don't even have an understanding of something outside of what they're able to see. Humans question things outside of the three-dimensional realm all the time. So I feel like that's like the main thing that separates man from animals, is that questioning aspect and that broader sense of
yeah, I completely see
reality.
that. And so we're gonna go ahead because again, you're talking about a lot of topics that are seen in other sources. So we're gonna jump over to Darwin on Moral Intelligence. This was by Vincent de Norcia. Um, and this talks about a lot of Darwin's uh, his perspective on moral and, or rather, like social communication between animals and humans, and also their moral values, and like how that like evolved from social patterns to now like moral patterns. Like, so to dive a little deeper, Darwin talks about like how we as humans, we have different relationships with other humans than animals with other animals, as in like we like to socialize, right? We have our own language, like things like uh dinner, social events, you know, going to the movies, just like hanging out in general. That's not seen in the animal kingdom really, especially in the sense of like communication and also like relationships. Animals don't get married. And then I'll let you respond to that, and then we'll talk about more of the moral aspect to that. So let's hear your response.
Well, one thing to take note is that you have to understand the concept of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs is basically um, a pyramid of things that each human needs within their life. And so the bottom half, or the bottom of the bottom, is survival, right? Shelter, water, food, and maybe sex is in there. Above that is family, community, um, socialization, work, and then above that is um, like legacy, social status, and things of that nature. And above that is like purpose. So like actualization, purpose, things that you're passionate about, which it's set. Which I feel like that part in particular really separates us from animals. So as far as the social aspect of it, a lot of animals don't socialize because it's not in them, because they're always fighting for survival. Humans, we're not always fighting for survival in the way that animals do. So we're not constantly, fighting each other to survive, right? We have the needs met. We have shelter, we have water for the most part in a first world country. So we have the ability to socialize. Now, comparing it to chimpanzees do socialize to a certain extent, because they know that they have to survive in that group, right? And they also, if you look at the patterns of chimpanzees, it's quite similar to humans, how they gossip, how they try to, overthrow somebody who's like in power and stuff like that. So it's very similar, but the main reason why it's different is because humans have already met the need for survival, so we can socialize. And to add on to that, socializing helps with survival, because we rely on each other for, because we live in a society now. We're not individuals. We're not a lone tiger. We're not a lone wolf, right? We live in packs, in groups. Towns, cities, states, countries, nations. So we all depend on each other some way, in some form, and we all have a social contract that we all abide by, whether it's enforced by the law or not, right? So we we kind of stepped we kind of surpassed the need for immediate survival a long time ago. Whereas a lot of animals, it every day is eat or be eaten. So
Right. And I feel like, if you look at humans, our like animal instincts or animal like aggressiveness comes out a lot when you're dealing with like maybe, like even like I'll talk about like siblings, right? If your younger sibling or older sibling steals food from you, you're gonna get a little like that animalistic behavior. You know what I'm saying? Like and if someone later in life, maybe like you have to defend your family. That's when like physicality happens. So I definitely see that, like how animals have to deal on that survival basis from day to day, while humans don't. But you can still see it come out in certain senses. So on to the next resource. We have something from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, The Moral Status of Animals, where this was also touched in the Darwin piece, but we talk a lot about the difference between the moral standards between animals and humans, where we've built our whole society around our morals. We have laws that are literally spelled out what is good and what is bad, while animals obviously don't have that. But at the same time, it's not complete anarchy in the animal kingdom. Sure, like if you want to look at like murder, like we look at murder as something that should never do and is extremely punishable, versus animals. Murder, isn't like something that happens for no reason, but like it's a little bit more accepted, I guess you could say. You know what I'm saying? Because um, if if uh if an animal does something as simple as like threatening another animal's family, like that's instant. Like there's no rules. Like you're likely gonna die. Where in humans we have a lot more, like we try to avoid as much as we can. Depends on the person. Blah blah blah. And also it talks about how um, you know after that we look at other morals where we'll even like separate ourselves based off race, based off like other characteristics, whether it be religion, socioeconomic status, and all that. I'll go ahead and let you give your thoughts on those two aspects.
You know, we're so smart that it makes us dumb. And how I can describe is, you know how they say ignorant is bliss, but the more you know, the more you get depressed. It's kind of in a similar fashion. Animals, like you don't hear stories about a lion killing another lion for no reason, right? Lions, even if they fight each other, they're not looking to kill each other, right? They're looking to overthrow somebody for dominance, but they're not looking to kill that other lion, you know? They might look to kill another animal that's being threatened, but as far as species on species, it's not really common in the animal kingdom that they, attack on each other, right? The animal kingdom doesn't really um species on species don't really attack. Like one hive of bees don't say, let's gang up on this other hive. They're focused on the mission, which is preserving their own hive. And humans, we've became so smart. It's like the more we know, the more we see flaws in each other. And when you tend to ask questions more and more, you start to see flaws within each other. And a lot of the times it can ruin our relationship with each other because our viewpoints are different, right? It can be as simple as two gang members fighting over a block in a neighborhood, or it can be as complex as two countries battling over, you know, some piece of land, right? Like Russia and Ukraine is a very complicated, situation, right? So, and it can be territorial, it can be religious, and it can be racial, it can be political. Now, those things that I just listed are not found in the animal kingdom. There's no race in the animal kingdom. There's no political ideology in the animal kingdom. There's no economic system in the animal kingdom. So animals don't really argue over complicated things like that. The only really thing that they battle over is, mates and territory. That's really it. And yeah, mates, territory, and like their own young. And
Mm-hmm.
those things are very simple. We like to complicate things, and we see differences, and because differences is scary, right? Things that may be different to you, humans are not susceptible to accept it, right? We don't like change. We don't like things that are different. So we're gonna, and that's within our nature too. Things that are different. We don't like things that are different. We don't, even though we're very dynamic creatures, we don't like change. We don't like differences. So we try as much as we can to avoid it.
Hmm.
So,
And one like topic that really stood out to me from this source was it was talking about philosophers like Jeremy Bentham and Peter Singer. They made the claim that like any being with an interest in avoiding suffering deserves moral consideration, which pretty much means like if you don't want to if you don't want to have any harm come to you, then you've got to follow the morals that are like set in your given society or environment, which is pretty interesting. So we can go ahead and move on to another topic, if unless you have anything last to say on that one. Let's see.
that's pretty much what I.
Great. Yeah, 1 second. I gotta pull it up. So now we're going to go ahead and so I'll give it up to you. Do you want to hear the uh, the resource that goes against animal or humans being animals, or do you want to hear the one that is for animals being humans first?
Uh, let's hear four animals being humans, and then let's hear the latter.
So you want to hear the one that humans are animals, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So here we are. So this is the New York Times. Human are animals. Let's go over it by Crispin Sartwell. Um, this goes through pretty much saying obviously that humans are very similar to animals. We share the same flesh and blood, uh, and 1 second. Sorry, Chrizzo, just give me 1 second.
Nah, you good.
I just lost it, so it's gonna take me 2 seconds. Oh, that's right. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so this goes back to a lot of like our consciousness versus what goes on between animal's mind and a human's mind, and how we both kind of seek the same things. How we seek, basic forms of survival. That's shelter, food, and making a family, um, and then also kind of claims that. It uses an example about saying that I am like if you're comparing yourself to a squirrel, you say, "Oh yeah, I'm not a squirrel," but at the same time, I look for food like a squirrel. I go to my home like a squirrel, like in the tree, and is like a squirrel. So like looking at that baseline, like there's so many similarities between humans and animals. I guess I want to hear your objection to that.
Um, well, I mean, I definitely agree. So, in a lot of aspects, we are very similar to humans because we live because we we're not aliens. Anything that's living that's not a plant is considered an animal. That's not bacteria, fungi, plants, or viruses is considered an animal. And so material wise, we aren't animals, but like I said before, we are very smart animals. So because we live in planet Earth. Planet Earth is ever evolving, and we have to adapt. So our biology and our instincts are wired to be similar to animals in that we look for our food. Just because we're more advanced doesn't mean that we're not similar to animals, right? Like look at the early precursors of humans, right? We were very similar to humans, right? I would say the early precursors of humans were like wolves. We hunted in packs and we created strategies. Wolves create strategies on how to capture prey. The only difference between wolves and us is that wolves stayed the same and we changed over time. And humans have the ability to change over time. And the reason for that is our curiosity for improving, right? Our curiosity to a monkey has curiosity to what a pencil do, but it doesn't go further than that. Humans over time have and like all these other animals have been longer on planet Earth than any of us has been. Humans are a very young species compared to all the rest of the animals: crocodiles, sharks, monkeys, chimpanzees, apes, lions, wolves. They've been around way longer than we have. So there has to be something different, within us that makes us different than animals, because animals, relatively stayed the same, while us, we've evolved and we jumped leaps of evolution. We went to space. You know what I'm saying? We could have stayed the same and we could still be running around with, picks, with like, togas on our bodies, looking for, elephants and stuff, right? But we didn't. And the reason for that, I feel like, is our questioning abilities.
Hmm.
We question things outside of ourselves. And I feel like that's what makes us human, like our search for God, man's search for truth, right? And I know this is philosophy, so philosophy doesn't like to tie in religion and spirituality, but just the search of it, it's very prevalent within humans. You know, search for religion, search for something outside. Humans since the beginning of time have been looking for things outside of its own. And I feel like that's the main thing that separates man from animal.
Yeah, man, 100%. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up here. We got one last resource. Uh, this is the one against humans being animals. This is from the Philosopher's Magazine archive. We Are Not Just Animals by Carrie Grain. This one goes through, and one thing I wanted to make sure I mentioned is, and we mentioned it plenty of times, is we
Wait,
have the physical.
I got it. I
Yeah,
got
you're
it.
good. You're good. Take your time. Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on. Are you? All right.
Oh yeah. So okay. So we're gonna go ahead and close out here with our last resource, and I wanted to make sure I mentioned how it's been a topic in this conversation how we're kind of like looking at it from the physical aspect, the physical presence, the physical body, and then like our soul or mental slash soul being, right? Um, and with our soul comes our morality, comes our thought process, our creative process, all that stuff. So that's a big difference. One quote from this source that stood out to me was this philosopher states something from Rene Descartes. I'm butchering that, saying that animals are mere physical machines, whereas humans are souls that happen to be plugged into those physical machines, which I think was pretty interesting. But yeah, this source talks about the big gap between humans being rational animals, where we possess a higher order of power, responsibility, and unique realm of experiences and values. Uh, like we mentioned before, we have language, image making, we can create art, and you mentioned how much creativity we have, and then we also talk about like how we have our own systems, like we have advanced extremely fast in the technology. Technology runs our world, and consumerism. We're always trying to get new things, and we need everything in our blah 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 blah. I'm gonna cut this. Okay, so yeah, well, I'll just leave it at that. Chrizzo, you have any last comments with this resource?
I just want to say that that animals are very they tend to be very robotic in a lot of things that they do that is very quote unquote program, but don't assume that you're far off. Just because we're a lot more advanced doesn't mean that we're far off from that. And my school of thought is yes and no, that we are animals. We're very smart animals, but we're a lot different than animals.
Mhm.
Like I said, the main thing, in my opinion, that separates us from animals is our ability for search for understanding. Right? Our search for understanding is the main thing that separates us from animals. Whether that's religion or science. Right? We're always stepping into new territories of discovery, and we can see this with our ancestors, right? Humans, like there's no other animal that's walked the face of the earth as much as humans. You can find humans in Antarctica. You can find humans in the Sahara Desert, right? The hottest of climates and the coldest of climates. So we're everywhere because we want to discover. We want to see what the horizon holds for us. And I feel like that's what really separates man from animal. So yeah.
Hey man, Chrizzo, I really appreciate you coming on. This was a great little philosophical talk, and I hope to have more of this. But yeah, thanks a lot for having you on. I'll ask this. Well, I'll say this. You've got me like thinking to change my answer. Like now, I'm not even sure if we're animals or not. But either way, this has been great. That is all. We're gonna stop recording. Blah blah blah. Where's the? Come on. Oh yeah, I'll record on the laptop. But yeah, thanks, Chrizzo. That went really
Yeah, bro,
well.
I got you. Yeah.
And honestly,